सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. So last time we saw the whole idea of Karma Yoga. Any questions or clarification on that? Or is it all clear? Okay, all right. So the 47th verse we had seen completely last time, correct? Okay, let us go ahead then. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhi asiddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yogam uchyate. Samatvam yogam uchyate is giving one of the famous definitions of yoga here, based on all that we have seen up to now. He says, Yogastha kuru karmani. With this yoga buddhi that we saw elaborately last time of Ishwararpanam and Prasada buddhi, karmani kuruhu, do all your karmas. Sangam tektva dhananjaya, giving up your emotional dependency, sangaha, dependency on the result. That will automatically happen. If you have prasada buddhi, you have become bigger than the desire anyway. Therefore, siddhi asiddhiyoho samo bhutva, between success and failure, achievement and non-achievement, being the same towards both. Okay, same meaning you are having a sense of balance. Who likes failure? Nobody likes failure. Even a small thing. Being able to connect up to Zoom for a class. Do you like failure in that? Simple thing, small thing. Recording is available. Still you don't like it. What? Prasada buddhya. You are willing to accept that the result, success or failure, as prasada from Ishvara. All this we have seen elaborately last time. Therefore, prasada buddhya, Ishwararpana buddhya, samikritva. You are having a sense of balance. And this balance that you are having, yoga muchyate, is called yoga. This balance in life. Not the static balance of a table. There is a table in front of me on which all this is kept. That the balance of a table in a room on the floor is a static balance. There is no movement there. The balance that he is talking about here is like that of a ship at sea. It is buffeted by the waves, all sides, stormy sea, but it maintains its balance. However much it goes this side, this side, this side, this side, with all that, it is maintaining a balance there. It's moving forward. It's going to reach the goal. However much, whatever waves the seas throw at it, it keeps going without going off balance. That's samatvam, that dynamic samatvam. Similarly, in life, you will be buffeted by things. Every time a problem comes, you think this is rock bottom. Then when you get the new problem, now that is rock bottom. You think corona is a rock bottom? Wait. All of us are affected, but none of us are infected by God's grace. Yeah. Therefore, whatever buffets you in life, the storms of life may buffet you, you maintain your balance. Samatvam yoga muchyate. Okay. We saw this last time also, I think, right? Durena hi avaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddho sharanam anvicha kripana phala hetavaha. Avaram karma, other than karma yoga, buddhi yoga compared to karma yoga, actions done with this buddhi, other avaram karma are nothing. Okay, it's very of low quality. He says, low quality. Yeah. You may achieve success, etc., but you have not grown in the process. The karma yoga gives you a better chance of success, number one. And whether you succeed or fail, you are growing. Therefore, you are successful all the time. Because you have managed to grow. In difficult situations, you have managed to grow. In pleasant situations, you have managed to grow. In abnormal situations, you have managed to grow. In normal situations, you have managed to grow. Therefore, all the time you are growing. Compared to that, other karma, he says, which is not done with this attitude, Bodhuram. Okay. Buddhau Sharanam Anvichya. Therefore, take resource, take refuge in this type of thinking. Ishwararpanam Prasada Buddhi. Kripanaha Falahetavaha. Those who are going only by phalam or by thinking that they are going to produce results, they are miserly in their thinking. They will not grow in disease. Okay, nothing more. All this we have covered before. This is just a verse of praise. It's technically in technical literature. This is called Arthavada. Praise, criticism, exaggeration, storytelling, all of it to highlight the importance of a thing. Here, what is being highlighted by the criticism of karma without Karma Yoga Buddhi, it is highlighting the necessity of having Karma Yoga Buddhi. Okay. Then the next verse gives another definition of Karma Yoga, of yoga. Okay. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrit dushkrite tasmad yogaya yunjasva yoga karma sukaushalam. Buddhi yukta, here, one who has got this buddhi here in this life, jahati, he gives up, sukrit dushkrite, good and the bad, all ideas of good, bad, etc., you grow out of. Okay, punya papa you grow out of. Tasmad yogaya yunjasva. Therefore, take to yoga. And he gives another definition of yoga here, karmasu kaushalam. Yoga, karmasu kaushalam. Yoga is competency in action. Now you have to be careful here. When he is saying yoga, karmasu kaushalam, you have to be careful. Why? If you are competent, if you are skillful, does that mean you are a great yogi? You keep doing a thing, you will develop the skill. My favorite example very often comes from my personal experience in martial arts. The human hand. You hit it with a brick, you will probably fracture a bone. One of those minor bones you will fracture, or at least it will be swollen up, etc., etc. Bruised, swollen. You have to bandage it for some days. But look at it. Hand conditioning exercise. You keep practicing, keep practicing. First you hit against sand or water conditioning, which many people don't know. Hit against sand, then you hit against something harder, then you hit against bricks. Finally, the hand goes through bricks and wood and everything. Why? Highly skillful now your hand has become just because of repetition. When you punch, the other guy has to fall. How competent are you? That doesn't make you a yogi. We are not talking about this type of skill here. Skill here is talked about in 2-3 aspects. Competency. I would like to, rather than translating Kaushalatvam as skill, I would like to put it as your personal competency. Okay. Personal competency. Swamiji has put in the word discretion. If you are using this book, okay, he has translated the word as discretion. I will tell you why it is discretion a little later. Why it is being used as discretion, I will tell you a little later. Okay. Now look at it. Karma Yoga involves certain growth. So a certain amount of personal competency comes into the picture. Which he has said earlier also. Can you manage your emotions? Do you have a healthy self-esteem? Can you manage your mind? Can you take care of your desires? It's a very important part of Karma Yoga. Okay. Do you understand Ishvara? Important part. And a very important part that comes as part of Karma Yoga is your understanding of Dharma. Because if it is only skill-based, competency-based, let us say here is an international assassin. A paid killer does a clean job every time. He's got 100 kills to his name. 100 people he has assassinated over a career of the last 20 years. Very highly skillful. Doesn't leave a trace. You want it to look like an accident, he can make it look like an accident. You want to send a message across through that killing, he can do that. Whereas he never been caught. Very skillful. So what, he's a Karma Yogi? Will you consider, on the basis of this definition of Kushalatvam, will you consider him a Karma Yogi? I want the people to respond. Would you consider him a Karma Yogi? Yes or no?
No.
Why not? If no, why not?
There is no base of Dharma in his...
Dharma is missing, exactly. Therefore, Kushalatvam is connected with Dharma. Remember, I said Ishvara Arpanam. Ishvara Arpanam is Karma Yoga. You cannot have Ishvara Arpanam without recognizing the play of Dharma. Dharma is not morals, okay? It's not being moralistic. Dharma goes much beyond that. Okay? One way of looking at Dharma is universal ethics. What is ethical as human beings across religion and cultures? It is not religious ethics. Okay? Actually speaking, religious ethics are supposed to enhance universal ethics. You can't say, I should be honest towards people of my own religion, but I am allowed to be dishonest with people of another religion. That is not ethics. Okay, that's not ethics. That's convenience. That's being parochial. Ethics are universal. So, one aspect of Dharma is universal ethics, which I will come to back again. If you look at the Sanskrit meaning of the word Dharma, Dharayati iti Dharma, that which upholds, that which maintains. What? The creation. Like, for example, the universal principles will become part of Dharma. Gravity. Why? Without gravity, can you have earth or life on earth? Impossible. Impossible to have life on earth without gravity. Therefore, gravity is necessary for dharanam, to uphold life on earth. Part of dharma. You're not normally thought about this as part of dharma, isn't it? All universal principles. And believe me, the universal principles, most of them are instinctively recognized even though you may not spell it out. Like gravity. All human beings recognize gravity long before Newton came into the picture. In the Western world, Newton gave some practical laws and measurements of the term gravity. And some practical laws he gave it. Therefore, from the principle of gravity, he deduced some laws, some values, mathematical value for gravity. And as a corollary, gravitational acceleration, etc. All that came from that. But the principle gravity was recognized long before Newton. Why? Because everything was falling towards the earth, on earth. Nothing was falling up. Everybody recognized that. Even the monkey knew that he had to leap from tree to tree. And when he is leaping, he had to be very careful that he doesn't fall down. From the branch to branch, when he is leaping, he should take care that he doesn't fall down. And the baby monkey knew he had to hold on to the mother, otherwise he will fall. He knew that. Similarly, universal ethics are instinctively recognized. Do you really have to be told, don't kill somebody? Do you really have to be told, don't tell a lie? Your child recognizes that. The 2-year-old child at home can be embarrassingly honest. He doesn't have to be told to be honest. He is honest. You have to tell him, educate him in how to tell white lies. Not to tell the truth. I go to someone's house, ring the bell. The maid opens the door and the child is peeping out from behind the maid. And he shouts out, Daddy wala uncle is here. And the parents don't know where to look. Why? Somebody has referred to me as Daddy wala there in the family. Which is appropriate. I have a beard, so it's okay. But then the child has to be, the parents will educate the child. No, Swamiji, don't call him Daddy wala. The child is being honest. What he heard he said. How can you blame him? For the child, anyone who has a beard is a Daddy wala. Fine, no problems. Where is the issue there? Embarrassingly honest the child can be. The child can be brutally honest. Why? Doesn't need education. The universal is recognized because dharma is nothing. The universal laws are nothing but the manifestation of Ishvara here. If the creation is a manifestation of Ishvara, the laws that sustain the creation, the principles that sustain the creation, the principles that maintain the order is also a manifestation of Ishvara. The physical order they studied in physics, the chemical order, the electronics order, the psychological order, the ethical order, everything is a manifestation of Ishvara. Therefore, the order that governs your action. Here, mainly with respect to universal ethics come into the picture. Therefore, yoga karmasu kaushalam. This is why Swamiji translates it as discretion. instead of just competency. Competency has a larger meaning. Therefore, I like to use that word and include the word meaning discretion as part of it. Because one has to see what is it that you are doing. Are my actions in harmony with the ethical order that is there? And the ethical order is easy to recognize. All of us want to live and live happily. This is universal. I want to live and live happily. I wouldn't expect you to do anything that will damage my life or my happiness. Similarly, you don't expect me to do anything that will damage your life or happiness. If this is recognized, universal ethics is recognized. Universal ethics is recognized right here. I am leading a life. Yes, I am taking care of my health and happiness by staying at home. But if there is a gathering of people, whoever they may be, there is a gathering of people anywhere that is not following simple lockdown principles, and 500 people are gathering somewhere, that is damaging to their life and happiness, to my life and happiness as well in today's world, in the world now, today, with social distancing, etc., coming in because of the virus. Therefore, that becomes an unethical action. Whether it is sanctioned by a political leader or a religious leader or any other Tom, Dick and Harry, it is unethical. Why? Is damaging to my life and happiness, is damaging to other people's life and happiness. Simple as that. Therefore, if you recognize the universal, it's easy. You don't want me to tell lies to you, to bluff to you. I don't want you to bluff to me either. Therefore, honesty becomes a natural value. Not telling lies becomes a natural value. I don't want injustice to be done to me. You don't want injustice to be done to you. Therefore, both of us follow justice, the principles of justice. It's simple, it's natural. You don't need any great philosophy for this. Simple, common sense understanding. I want to live happily. Others want to do the same. So let us not do anything which will damage mine or your life and happiness. Simple as that. Because it's universal. Remember, the universal is simple. Only when you have to make it applicable in terms of laws, etc., it gets complex. Then the constitution comes into the picture, the laws of the land come into the picture, the special situation comes into the picture, 101 things come into the picture. Because you're making it a law now. Then it becomes complex. But if at the principle level, if you recognize, you'll be able to apply it easily in a situation. You can't be far away from the truth. Therefore, yoga karmasu kaushalam, recognizing the principles that govern human life. Forget human life, that governs life on this land. All values come from this. Ahimsa. I don't want to be hurt, you don't want to be hurt, therefore let us not hurt each other. Of course, be careful. Don't extend it too far. Therefore, I should not kill that microbe or bacteria that is destroying me and my health. No, don't extend it that far. Okay? Keep it use it with common sense. Otherwise, you will push it to extreme levels and it will become ridiculous. Make it common sense oriented. Then you can't go wrong. Yeah, like I saw a video on a YouTube saying that we all have contributed to the coronavirus because we are all eating meat. So how are you contribute? Because you say we are in close touch with animals and therefore the virus can jump. And so which a modern man will say, I don't even see the lamb that is being slaughtered to give me the meat. Therefore, by that logic, you should not have pets either. Animals should be kept far away from you. And all animal workers will have to wear protective clothing. Dairy workers, etc. Which is never the case in us. This is called extending it too much. To make an argument for vegetarianism, you are extending it. The argument is being extended more than, overextension. In Sanskrit we call it ativyapti. Extending it beyond what is tenable. Not tenable to do that way. No. Keep a certain balance. That's why I said, keep your common sense and keep your common sense. Yeah, don't have a wet market like the Wuhan wet market in India. What the markets that sell meat here are bad enough in India. You don't make it worse by selling all those animals also. Okay. Yeah, you think they are hygienic? Yeah, go and have a look at those markets. I think the municipality should do something to improve the hygiene in those markets. Yeah. Therefore, yoga karmasu kaushala, your competency in ethical issues, minimum. Not only that, many people, I receive calls from a lot of people, are not feeling good about themselves during this lockdown. I said, why? Aren't you having time with your family, which you always wanted to have but didn't have? Aren't you able to read and things like that? Catch up on things that you wanted to. Why are you not feeling good enough? No work, son. What do you mean no work? Yeah, I stopped everything and I'm not doing anything now. I'm unfortunately not in a field where it can be done online. Can you see what principle is not being fulfilled here? The principle of productivity. Human beings need to be productive. That productivity can come from 100 different things, not only from your work. But work is one thing which is very evident that you are productive as a human being. But one needs to be productive. That's part of dharma. I've been given a life not to be wasted. Not to be wasted in song and dance and eating, in wine and food, song and dance. It's not meant to be wasted in that. Unless I'm a professional dancer, then it's a different thing, okay? Then you're being productive. Because productivity depends upon what is the job that you are doing, isn't it? Like I have a cousin, when the serials comes out, he's going out for a cup of tea or something like that. When the advertisements come out, he's keenly watching them. Why? He wants to know what his competitors are doing in terms of advertising. He is in the field of advertising. So for him, it is the reverse round. Still being productive. So productivity changes, but everyone requires to be productive. A housewife also requires to be productive, and she has to see that the work that she is doing contributes to the family and is very productive. I'm sure everyone has recognized that during the lockdown. The productivity of your maids, at least you would have recognized. But that's an important principle in life, productivity. So find ways of making yourself productive at any age, at any time. Similarly, what is it that will contribute to the success of a given action? There are certain universal principles governing an action. If you recognize that, you will be successful most of the time. What are the principles that required for achievement in your field? that does not conflict with dharma, do them. That's also part of kushalata, your competency. Your personal competency, how you can handle your mind, your desires, your manage all of them. That's kushalata, part of karma yoga. How well you deal with people. Are you trusting? Are you trustworthy? Both are important. Ask yourself this question. Can I trust others? In fact, this is not a life class. Okay, let me ask a question here. I want you to answer. How many of you consider yourself capable of trusting people? How many of you? Please say yes or no.
Yes, I do, Swamiji. Devanuchir.
Yes.
Most of you are trusting?
Yes,
Yes, Swami.
Would most of you consider yourself as trustworthy? Would you all
Yes.
Yes, Swami.
those who doubt their ability to trust also have to look at themselves and see, do you consider yourself trustworthy? Can you be trusted? If you give your word, is it as good as a written document?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that is important. That is called being trustworthy. That's what's being called trustworthy. So, that is part of our dealing with people for success. Yoga Karma Kaushalam, this is part of the game. In fact, if you look into our itihasas and Puranas, you will get enough indications of this. Since Ramanavami is just over a couple of weeks, not even a couple of weeks back, just 10 days ago, I thought I will give this example here today. As I am speaking now, I am thinking of this example. Some of you have heard of it. Dasharatha and Kaikeyi, long ago. Long ago, before Rama was born. Okay. When the world was young. I think Dasharatha was the 58th ruler of the Ishwaku dynasty. 57th or 58th ruler of the Ishwaku dynasty. So many centuries had already gone. Okay. Before Dasharatha came on the scene. When we see Dasharatha in Ramayana, we see an old man toward the end of his life. I am talking about the time when Dasharatha was a young warrior, a warrior king, so competent that even Indra came to him for help. He says, the Rakshasas are overrunning Bharatavarsha. We have to throw them off. Please join us so that we can throw the Rakshasas away from Bharatavarsha, Aryavarta, our land. Aryavarta was our land, okay? From Ramayana time or even before it is called Aryavarta. It is not Aryans came from outside, that is stupid and idiotic, meant to manipulate and control our narrative. No. Aryavarta, Bharatavarsha. Not that India came into existence in 1947. In Vedic times you have mentioned Bharatavarsha. Ramayana, 6,000 years old, mentioned Bharatavarsha. So Indra comes to his help. And Dasharatha was in the forefront of this battle to defeat the Rakshasas. And in one such battle, he is cut off from his army, surrounded by the Rakshasas, putting up a great battle, but he knows it's one against many. He may meet his end that day. And he decides to take as many as he can with him. And he keeps the battle on. From a chariot that can move in 10 different directions, he is fighting for all he is worth. Kaikeyi, another warrior princess, who is there in that battle, recognizes his plight. With her brigade, she breaks through the Rakshasa ranks and comes to his aid. At the end of the day, both of them are sitting down. The hero and his love. But though the heroine today was Kaikeyi, not Dasharatha. Okay? And they're sitting. Dasharatha in his gratitude says, ask for what you want, I'll give it to you. And she replies as a woman in love, I have you, why do I need anything else? The king is with me, what else do I need? But he is the king after all, and in that magnanimity of being a man and a king, he says, 2 boons, ask anything that you want, it's yours. She'll say, I'll ask it later, not now. Now is not the time for boons, now is the time for other things. Years go by. Years go by. The 4 princes are born. The princes grow up. They pass out from the Gurukula and come home. Another 12 years goes by. When Dasharatha, now an old man, decides it's time to hand over the kingdom to my eldest son, Rama. At that time, Kaikeyi asked the boons that Bharata should be crowned, not Rama. Rama should be sent to the forest. Now look at the situation. Nobody knows about the boons other than Dasharatha and Kaikeyi. Nobody else knows about it. Dasharatha could have thought, Arey, raat gayi, baat gayi, what is there to be said now? He could have said, I don't remember anything like this. What court of appeal did Kaikeyi have? No witnesses to this agreement between them, this dialogue between them that happened 40 years ago. No witnesses. No documentation. But Dasharatha knew, I have given that vow. I have given my word. I have to keep it. Even if it kills me, I have to keep my word. I can be trusted to keep my word even if it costs me. In fact, he gives a solution to Rama. Why do you have to listen to me? Depose me off. Depose me. Have a coup. The army will support you, the people will support you. I also will support you. Depose me off and become the king. Rama says, no. I have also given my word that I will obey you, whatever you ask of me. Words will be kept. That is the level of trustworthiness in a person. Can you see that? Yoga karma su kaushalam. This is connected. That's the demonstration in a story. That here it is. In fact, very interesting. In the villages in North India, I have heard this happening. A man makes a promise to his wife and she doesn't believe him. He says, no, I know you will not keep your word. And he will say, ye dasha ka vada hai. In the name of Dasharatha, I am making this promise. Not in the name of Rama. In the name of Dasharatha, I am making this promise. That means it is done. Whatever I have said, it will be done. Dasha ka vada. How many years have passed? Years have passed. From Ramayana time to now. Is he forgotten? No. The level of trustworthiness, yoga karma su kaushalam, to that extent, Agreed, we are not Dasharathas or Rama. We may not be able to give it at that level, to live at that level. That a 40-year-old promise we can keep, we may not even remember it. That's the different thing. But how much can we do? Is my word as good as a written document today, now? If it is, then I am trustworthy. I have done hundreds of programs for so many companies. Never have I had a written agreement with them that I will do this and you will pay me this. Never. It's always, we say, yeah, this will be done, this is it, okay, we shake hands, that's it. I have not been cheated. 99% of the times it's been fair, good enough. 1% you can live with, no issues. Trustworthiness. If you are trustworthy, you can trust. And chances are good. Of course, you have to be careful whom you are trusting also, okay? No, I'm not saying be blindly, oh, Swamiji said that, therefore I should trust now the worst crook that is there. No, don't. When the politician comes around, be careful. You may not be able to trust him. Politicians, upalakshana, okay? Any non-trustworthy person. So you trust in limits and find out. But that's a different thing. The idea is what goes in the name of Kaushal. Your recognition of the universal. The universal ethics, the universal principles that govern human life. And therefore, the way you live so that your life, whether success or failure, you grow in the process. Growth happens. And that growth, that's important. Because what is success, what is failure? Highly relative. Highly relative. The goalposts keep shifting all the time anyway. What is it that you say when you are being successful or not successful? Highly relative. But growth, that's it. Everything else you are going to leave behind here and go. One fine day, when you meet the Yamaduta or Yama himself, if you are lucky, on the road, and he says, "Beta, time, let's go." What are you going to take with you? Oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. Time is up. No time for anything like that. Sometimes no time to say goodbyes also. What is it that you take with you? Only your growth. That he will say in the 6th chapter. He will talk about what is it that is taken by you. Your dharma comes with you. The growth that you have achieved on earth comes with you. Everything else is enjoyed by your brother-in-law. Okay, not you. If you're lucky, your son-in-law. Okay. Yeah. Everything else. Therefore, that's it. Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. How well you recognize the universal principles and act in harmony with them. That becomes Kushalam, Kaushalam, Kushalata. In what manner you are acting so that personal growth can be taken care of. To base your actions on Dharma. Dharma universal. The optimum is universal ethics. It goes more than that also. It goes more than that. Even the way you communicate with each other, etc., that's also part of Dharma. Good communication is part of Dharma. How well you can communicate, how well you can make someone understand what you want, and how more important, how well you can understand the other person. That's part of Dharma. That's part of human life. That's part of your Kushalata. Why? One complaint I hear from people all over the world is, nobody understands me. Nobody understands me. It is this lack of understanding that makes our loneliness greater. In this lockdown right now, you may be there with half a dozen people at home. But on some issue, if others don't understand you, you will feel lonely right there. in spite of having all the family members whom you know they love you around, you still will feel lonely. Why? Nobody understands you. Therefore, how well can you understand? That understanding is a bridge that we build across two islands of loneliness. It's a bridge. It does not completely remove your sense of isolation. That will go only when you know the truth that I am that consciousness which is everything that we saw in the beginning of the second chapter. Only then it's complete. But this is relative. How do I live so that I can understand that? Yoga karmasu kaushalam. Your competence in understanding the universe is part of yoga. Therefore, these two definitions of yoga makes it is very, very important. Okay? See, if you look at the definition of yoga that Patanjali has given, he talks about it as Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Mastery of the mind is called yoga. That's a basic definition. Does not Karma Yoga give you that mastery? Wherever you are, Ishwararpanam Prasada Buddhi. You are balanced. Samatvam Yoga Muchyate. Because of that, you are balanced. Whether you are eating a good meal or you are fighting a battle, no problems. You are facing threatening situations, no problems. You are competent in life. Therefore, that samatvam is a very important definition of yoga that contributes to mastery. But mastery is not just sitting down and keeping quiet. Any idiot can do that. Sit down and keep quiet. What use is that? No, karmasu, with respect to karma, in action. I am a competent person. Dharma is very clear. Universal principles are clear. That is also yoga. So yoga is not just sitting quiet or standing on your head. Your competency, how dharmic you are. In other words, you can be a yogi even if you can't touch your toes, okay? Or stand up on your head. Why? Your samatvam, your kushalata, both together makes you a yogi. Whenever Krishna talks about a yogi in the Gita, this is what he is referring to. These two definitions are what he is primarily referring to. There is one more definition that he will give in the 6th chapter, that we will see later when the 6th chapter comes. Dukkha Samyoga Viyoga, for those who have listened to it earlier. Okay? That is also part of Karma Yoga. The whole thing becomes yoga together. Any questions or clarifications, or is it clear? There are questions, shoot. Now is the time to shoot.
Swamiji, what's samatvam?
Beg your pardon?
What is samatvam?
Balance, harmony, balance in life.
So, what are the two components of yoga other than and samatvam and Ishvara Arpanam?
Ishvara Arpanam and Prasada Buddhi together will give you the samatvam, that balance you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how is it different from Patanjali's?
How is it?
Different from Patanjali's definition of yoga?
I'm sorry, I'm not getting your question.
How is it different from Patanjali's definition of
It is.
yoga?
That's what I'm trying to tell you. It is not different.
Okay.
Because Patanjali said mastery of the mind is yoga.
Yes.
Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Samatvam and Kushalatam is part of that mastery. Without this, what mastery are you talking about? In meditation, you are sitting quiet. That is easy. You can force yourself to be quiet for some time. Nirodha, just control. People translate it also. Control of the mind is yoga. Hey, what control? No, managing your emotions, your worry, your anxiety, etc., which is managed by Ishwararpanam and Prasada Buddhi. Managing your desires, all that is Karma Yoga. That is what the real mastery is. It's easy to sit in a cave in the Himalayas and not be disturbed by anything. That's easy. There was this guy, okay, I knew this guy. He was in Rishikesh. And Rishikesh, there is a society of sadhus there. And he used to keep fighting with everyone. Okay? He used to keep fighting with everyone. Therefore, he decided, ये तो बराबर नहीं है, मैं योग करने के लिए जा रहा हूँ. So he went to Gangotri, lived in a cave for 6 months. There is a small kshetra there where you can have bhiksha. He used to go only for bhiksha, come back, sit down and contemplate. Go there for bhiksha, sit down and contemplate. 6 months he is like that. Didn't get angry at all. Then he decided, see, 6 months I have not got angry, that means I am fine. Then he came down to Rishikesh. So when he came down to Rishikesh, I told him, हाँ स्वामी जी, आगे वापस. अरे स्वामी जी क्यों बुला रहा है? महाराज क्यों नहीं बुला रहा? He is irritated right there. Not because I have not shown him respect, I have not shown him that extra respect he wanted. I called him Swamiji. That should be respect enough. From one Swami to another. No, he wants to be called Maharaj. What happened to his mastery? Gone. That 6 months in the cave didn't help him. Whereas here, if he had Ishwararpanam, Prasada Buddhi, that would have helped him better. ठीक है Baba. He's calling me Swamiji, good enough. He's calling me an idiot. His opinion, no problem. Prasada. Today to be called idiot is Prasada from Ishvara. Okay? Simple. Where is the problem? Yeah. After all, in your worship, don't you call God names? Hindus are idiot. Hindus are very different people, you know. In the name of worship, they call God names. Not 1 or 2 names, 1,000 names, Sahasranama. Anandaya, Krishnaya, Govinda. Go on calling him names. So today you got a name like that, idiot by somebody. Okay, doesn't matter. Don't you call Krishna like that? Thief? Kalla Krishna, Malayalam, those who don't understand Malayalam here. Makkan Chor. Don't you call him that? So somebody calls you idiot, what's the big deal? Prasada Buddhi, you are in good company, see? Even the Lord is called such names. You are also being called a name, so no problem. See? Prasada.
I have a question.
Yeah?
I have a question.
Shoot.
Swamiji, when we talk about
You have to speak up a little bit, I can't hear you.
when we talk about universal principles,
Yeah?
so for example, if there is a child who is born in a family of thieves,
Family of?
thieves.
I'm not getting that word. A child is born in a family of
Thieves.
thieves. Okay. Okay.
And that's a small example that happens, that can be in any context.
Agreed.
Or anything.
So he grows up as a thief. Is he responsible? Is the question.
He thinks that it is okay to steal.
No.
Because that is what he has learned and seen.
True.
And
The childhood influence is strong. I accept that. So you cannot completely 100% blame him as long as he is a child. But the moment he starts having his viveka, buddhi develops. Okay? He starts becoming more of an independent person. more of an independent person, definitely he is responsible for his actions because he is given a viveka to change. That is what the famous story of Valmiki is. He was a dacoit all his life. He didn't know anything other than being a dacoit. But when he met the Sapta Rishis, he understood the problem. Overnight he changed. Because human beings are capable of change. Therefore, just because I was brought up in a certain fashion does not justify me continuing in the same fashion beyond an extent. Certain cultural influences we cannot avoid. Your eating habits, food habits, dressing habits. That is why to overcome your background, look at Ishvara's order. I said Ishvara is the order, universal order, isn't it? Look at the beauty in Ishvara's order. There is something called teenage rebellion. Every teenager goes through this. And that is beautiful because that is the time when you can break through a lot of the upbringing conditionings. So that is part of Ishvara's order, that even if you are born in a family of thieves, during the time of your teenage rebellion, you are getting a chance to examine all these value structures fresh.
But not limited to childhood. I have seen that people tend to adapt according to the environment. So, in a particular setting, if they see something is okay, even
Correct.
if it's unethical, they will do it.
That's how you'll grow up. But after that, what? You think that's the only influence in his life? He doesn't have any other influences? Then every, what we call in India, every Pandita Putra should become a Pandita. But it doesn't happen. He looks at it and says, I don't want this life. A doctor's child should become a doctor. But most of them don't want to become doctors. I don't want this life. But that's what his upbringing was.
No, not upbringing.
So we rebel against
Peer
our upbringing.
influence as well.
Huh?
Peer influence as well. So when people are working in a particular setup, if there are unethical practices going in that particular setup, which is okay,
So
they
you change the
can
setup.
adapt to it.
That is why you have to enhance your education, and religious education, spiritual education is supposed to enhance your understanding of Ishvara, enhance your basic understanding of Dharma which you have to an extent where you can make your own choices. I can't say because I was brought up like that I am not responsible for my actions. That's justification. Haven't you not seen drunkards' children not becoming a drunkard? Even though everyone in the house drinks. Bapus pan beodare, baiko pan beodari, he pori ko nyachi. Both are drunkard, but the child is not like that. Child is different. Why? He chose to be different. She chose to be different. That human choice is something beautiful. The more self-awareness comes, the more external influences. In fact, today's world we are lucky. We are living in a world there are so many other influences. Therefore, it is not the family upbringing that alone that matters. Other influence also matters. It matters until you are a teenager. Yes, I accept that. As a child, as a 10-year-old, he may not know. But somewhere instinctively he recognizes it because the thieving is done in secret. The thieving is done without the knowledge of the others. The thieving is done and you are ensuring that you are not robbed. Therefore, you know you are robbing others, but you don't want to be robbed. Somewhere the conscience does act up. Work with these kids. You know, if you really want to understand, work with street children. Work with kids from this background and you will understand how much more they understand about these things than just upbringing. Expose yourself to them. I am amazed sometimes at how different those kids are from the upbringing that they went through and how much they can change. And even if they follow their family thing for some time, if there is some positive influence in their life, then a lot of change can happen. I've seen that happen. Yeah. A lot of it like that. Think it over. Okay. And I want you all to think of both the definitions, Samatvam and Kushalatvam, both, which is all both with reference to Karma Yoga, etc. See, look at that. And next class, come back with any questions you have, or we will go forward. Thank you. It was great being with all of you.